right, Gabe.
Sweet. Hey.
So, good. Let's start with a recap of your week.
Yeah.
So what were you? What did our lesson last time spark in you?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot and talking to a lot of different people about the idea of just playing from the heart and kind of like mirroring feelings rather than technique or something. And yeah, let me think for a second. Yeah, I think yeah, I mean, to me, playing from the heart makes so much sense. Like, the idea of of hearing music and then really listening to how it's moving me, and then trying to recreate that feeling of being moved, or whatever feeling I get from whatever I'm hearing, trying to recreate that for myself. It just feels like such a human way to play, and such a way that really is about music and about honoring music and kind of another example, another way that it's doing that is in a sense another way that we're acting as a vessel or a sort of a channel, because I think people often hear like, oh, you gotta like channel the music or whatever, and like in one sense you can do that from your own inner audience member out, and that's like maybe in some ways a bit deeper and / more mysterious on some level. But if you start from like trying to channel someone else's energy or feelings you get from them, that's a little more clear on some level of like, okay, well, this is how I feel when I hear that, let me just try to replicate that. And then maybe after you do that a lot, you have some own, and maybe not even after you do that, but in addition, you can kind of listen to yourself and be like, what do I personally, how am I feeling just myself? And let me play that feeling.
Yeah, so this points to a very different model of education. And it's something I'm excited about.
Yeah.
What does it mean to teach Soulforce? And what if teaching was about Soulforce rather than skill acquisition? One lens is skill acquisition is based more on the having mode. Like, I have this skill now I have this skill, and when I have this certain set of skills, then I'm a musician or master or whatever.
Right.
But the mere acquisition of skills doesn't lead to this human connection like you were talking about.
Right.
So what does lead to that? That's this connection to your own humanity.
Right.
And so how do we build upon or develop or let grow our students' soul, basically? Right? And so part of what we were doing last time, we spoke about the transferring the knowledge of the soul.
Right.
Yeah. So when you as a teacher play from the heart for your students, they're picking up on it, even if they don't really know what's going on. Right. So there's some kind of feeling, some kind of awareness that they're kind of saying, oh, so that's how it could be.
Yeah.
Right. And they try to mirror it in themselves.
Right.
And just the mere exposure to that.
Mere exposure.
Yeah.
Little pun.
Can makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that kind of reinforces a thought I've had, which I'm actually curious about, which is like I've always thought that, well, not always, I've recently thought, maybe in the last 2 years, 3 years or something, that like, you know, I'm going around, I teach lessons not very much these days because I didn't feel like I really wanted to. So I stopped kind of teaching like through companies and stuff. I only have a few private students, and I love working with them. But like, you know, it's like, I was just thinking like, you know, it's hard to feel that the best way to learn would be to like be incredibly immersed in music. Like it's hard to teach somebody and know that they're only kind of like working on something when you're there, or maybe like a couple times throughout the week. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you know, everyone doesn't have to be like steeped in music and be the greatest musician or anything. Like, if they just enjoy that, like, that's fine completely. But like, also to know that like, or to believe that like, hey, the best way to learn music would be like, if you were like listening to this all the time and like watching people play and like being around people who are doing what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then like that seems like the best way to learn, just like based on what you're saying, because like from a young age, just being incredibly immersed, you know, in music, which is, I might even mention this before, but like, you know, there's so many amazing musicians who've come out of like the Black church, and like gospel scenes, and you know, a lot of them are like from the age of 2 or 3, you know, they're at church all the time and just sitting next to the band and just like, they're just like getting all that, you know, and then and then we wonder why they're so good, and like just able to play like Corey Henry. I don't know if you know him, but you know, he's just one example. He's an amazing keyboard player, and just like, or there's so many crazy drummers who've come out of that. It's like yeah, like of course they're incredible because they've been like doing exactly what you said from like the age 2. And so it's hard as a teacher. Sometimes I'm like, okay, so I can like show you the little things here and there, and like, this is how you hold a violin, blah blah blah. But it's like, just to know that like the best way isn't that. Sometimes I'm like, but it's okay to not do things that most ideal way. But still, that's something I've thought about a lot recently.
Well, it sounds like there's a part of you that would like to have that for yourself, maybe.
Probably.
And like has a sense of a gift that you could give. In that kind of situation, or it might be fun to receive the gift of a student who grew up in that situation. Like, that'd be a great student, right? Yeah, right.
Like it challenges it complexifies. It's not a word, maybe, whatever. It makes more complex the like student-teacher relationship as being like, again, like the doing mode or whatever. I'm gonna like give you this stuff. It's more just like, hey, like I'm here like making music and you're here like witnessing it. And after quite a while of that, you'll probably be able to do it yourself.
Well, doesn't that happen in your weekly lessons?
I mean, no. I mean, it happens, I think, sometimes, but maybe I should rethink how I approach them. I guess a lot of times I feel like so much pressure to like I think I probably feel like, oh, I have to you know, obviously I do play for them, but like not the whole time. I'm not just like playing the whole time. But maybe if they're more like, once they kind of know how to play, like, that could be better.
And I'm not suggesting you need to play for them a whole lot.
Maybe just a little bit.
Even as you're tuning. Even as you are playing like your scale with them. Playing from the heart, as I see it, is something that unifies a false dichotomy. Between technique. And expressivity. You can play from the heart while you're taking your instrument out of the case. Like Miles Davis said, you know, you can tell a lot about a player before you even hear them by the way they take their instrument out of the case. right? So it's almost like a whole way of being.
Yeah.
Listening to yourself. Yeah. And
that's a good point. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. So yeah, it might be fun to have an experience of being with your students or students who have had that level of immersion.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily need it to get across what is really essential. I've been doing this with my young violin students this week. I decided, well, you know what? Why not play scales from the heart? And so we did. I would do a contrast. So I say, okay, so I'm going to play the scale for you 2 times. First time, just ba, da, 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 making a clear sound, playing in tune, smooth bow, all of that. And I would ask my student, well, I introduced them to the inner audience member first, right? But I then asked my student, well, so how does your inner audience member feel while I play that? And one student put it perfectly. Well, it was kind of pretty, but also boring. Like, yeah, that's right. I was making a nice sound.
Yeah.
I was playing in tune, and it was boring.
Yeah, right.
And when I'm bored, when my inner audience member is bored, so is yours. Right? So now I'll try it a different way. I'm listening to my own inner audience member. But you can already tell the difference.
Yeah.
Just in singing.
Yeah, even in singing it, yeah. That's funny.
Right? And then I would talk to them. Well, so what do you notice about that? Well, how does your inner audience member feel? So how did your inner audience member respond?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like kind of captivated, even though you were just pretending to play a scale.
Right?
Yeah.
So one of my students actually came to the lesson with a question like, why do we play scales? It's kind of boring.
Yeah.
Right? And as an exercise of mere mechanics, of course it's boring. It's definitely boring. There are lots of great reasons to play scales, all the reasons, good reasons. But if you're bored while you're doing it, then you're teaching yourself how to be bored while you make music. Not great.
Right.
And then you get this onerous idea of what hard work means, what discipline means. Discipline leads to freedom, except if it's incredibly onerous and boring. You can take the simple discipline of playing a scale, and if you do it from the heart, that is enlivening. Can even be dramatic. Right. And merely to have that experience, right? Just to be surprised, oh, a scale could come alive. Like, well, what does that offer you?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is that if that's the case, then it's much less about the music that you're playing, specifically like whatever the music is, and much more about how you're interacting with it, how you're realizing it, or your relationship to whatever it is.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And that's how you heal the split between technique and heart.
Yeah. Because like on some level, scales aren't specifically important, like they're not like singularly important in terms of like, you have to use scales to get what scales give you. Like you could kind of use anything on some level.
Yeah. Cool.
It's more about the quality of what you want from it or what you're seeking, I guess, and then how you, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I guess I have a couple of thoughts. I'm trying to. So like, yeah, I guess this is just more curiosity. Like, I feel like a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, well, no, not all of it. Sometimes you'll relate to, like you've told me about your young students and stuff, which is cool. Or people who are just kind of getting into music or more. But like, I guess some of the things we talk about kind of, for me, feel like they're extremely relevant as like somebody who has played music for a long time in a certain way, and now is like has a lot of, you know, facility or skill on some level, but is like has this disconnect on another level. But I guess I'm just kind of curious if like maybe it's not really that different, but does it rely on? Well, I'm trying to think. What do I actually want to ask? Yeah, I mean, I guess you could always just learn things with this way of listening to yourself, and then you just, I guess it kind of answers itself, really. I guess I'm just a person who's played for so long, so that's why we're talking from that perspective. But I guess I'm curious, maybe just your experience with young kids and how they react to playing from the heart. Like, maybe it's kind of, I don't know if you've like worked with anyone that long, from young age or not, but if you have, I'm just curious how it's been, like what they've thought of it, or how they've received that.
Yeah. Well, different students have reacted differently.
Yeah.
Generally, a student, especially my young students, they get it. They get it right away. It's like, oh, it's more fun.
Yeah.
How about that? And
that's great. I can believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, and just the other day, teaching this young boy, and he's playing Minuet 3, and usually he plays kind of stiffly and forcefully, and yeah, I can tell he's more engrossed in the mechanics than actually listening to his sound. It gets scratchy, you know.
Right.
And while working with him yesterday in playing from the heart, he like transformed into a real musician.
Wow.
I could hear his listening.
Wow.
Happening, right?
Wow.
Right. So I said that I noticed that in all my students. It sounds kind of fun. It's going to sound kind of funny to say, but one of the things that I heard in your playing right now was your own listening. And even what he's 10 years old, 9 or 10, he got that. He had this look of like intensity and focus and also spaciousness while he was playing, and I could tell how he was crafting Minuet 3. Right? And I'd ask him like, oh yeah, you had all these dynamics in there. Did you have to plan all that out? He said, no. How did you know? How did you know how to do that? Well, I just did what felt good. Yes.
Yeah. That's cool.
So yeah, even the little ones can get it. The younger they are, it's to use different language.
Yeah.
Just play in a way that feels good, or even then, you just being in the presence of the teacher who is already doing that will lead the student towards that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I guess because for me personally, a lot of this practicing and work has been about remembering that I have the skills that I need, like remembering that I like can do things without trying too hard. And so I guess that's why I'm just kind of curious about, like, well, what if you don't have the skills yet, but maybe you would just be doing different things that you do have the skills for? I guess
if you don't have the skills, just like technique.
Yeah, like if you're just, yeah, right. And maybe you have to match the level. Maybe that's what it is. Because you can't ask a 6-year-old violinist who's been playing for 2 years to play the same thing as someone who's played for 20.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. So it's maybe just like having different expectations, which is obvious.
Yeah, it's doing what you do from a different place.
Yeah.
And that's all it is.
Yeah. That's cool. I have another question, unrelated. I'm curious to hear for you, in terms of figuring out what it feels like to be in a mode of receiving. or to live in that way. I'm curious for you, was that something, or is that something that you feel like you had to like, something that you had to sort of like practice being in the habit of, or was there like a moment that really like, or you like heard the right thing, you're like, oh, now I understand it, or is it like a continual kind of like meditation almost? Or I'm just curious to hear how for you, what your experience has been like with doing versus receiving modes.
Yes.
Nice. Next question.
For me, it was driven by two imperatives. One was just being in pain.
Yeah.
Arm pain, and also emotional pain.
Yeah.
And also just curiosity about human potential. And well-being, like mystical experiences that have always intrigued me. So one thing that really appeals to me about Alexander technique is that it does both. When you're getting out of the way of yourself more, releasing that tension, that in itself opens the doorway to greater receptivity, connection, liveliness, transcendence. Yeah, so I mean, it's an ongoing process,
Yeah. Like, are there specific things that you receive? I almost said that you do. I was like, but that you do, like, are there specific practices that you do to, like, maybe that's, like, even just, like, the wrong way of looking at it, but I'm just curious for you, like, how do you get more in touch with that space? Like, now that now that you've are an experienced, presence in that, like, it's something you've been thinking about for a long time, but like, are there things that you do specifically to like open yourself up to that space?
Yeah, and I can't say I'm any great practitioner of this.
Sure.
I've been doing it for a while. I'm really curious about it, and I engage with it every day. And one of the big reasons I engage with it every day is because I really need it. Right? So the reason my arms hurt so much in college was because I was so in the doing mode.
Yeah.
So deeply tense. More than my other colleagues. Right? So going to that extreme, I've had to really work my way to the other extreme. Yeah, what do I do these days? I meditate. I listen to Charles Eisenstein. He speaks about this so well, and just having his insights so orienting. Yeah, I have some other books and practices that I do on a daily basis or a weekly basis. I sense underneath your question is like, how do you get to where you want to go?
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah.
How do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, my gut reaction is just that it's something that takes time and practice, which makes sense. But I guess it's like such a different such a different space to be in, that I'm almost just like, yeah.
So what you feel drawn towards it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
There's something in you that says, what's this?
Yeah.
That feels kind of good, and also very unfamiliar.
Right.
So my advice would be to pay attention whenever that happens. This is receiving mode reaching out to you.
Oh, interesting.
Saying, come this way. Holding out a hand.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen spontaneously. It'll happen more when you come here or engage with certain kinds of practices,
right.
which is why it's good to do those things.
Right.
You'll find that the doing mode sneaks into those practices, and here in the lessons too. If you create a project around trying to manufacture opportunities to enter into the receiving mode, they're going to disappear.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm like trying to balance, I guess.
Yeah. So it's more about noticing. Setting up the conditions. Like you can't force a flower to grow.
Right.
But if you have the right kind of soil and water and sunlight, then it'll grow. It's going to be a gift. It's going to show up spontaneously.
Right.
And whenever it happens, whenever there's something that strikes you, you notice it, like, even if you can't put words to it, like, there's that thing again. And if you can put words to it or like recall the feeling throughout your week and to try to use it in various situations, see what happens, then that's a big part of how you practice it.
Interesting. Yeah. Would you say that how do you think of the gut feeling in relation to the inner audience member? Is that the same thing for you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like I'm curious to hear, do you feel like the gut feeling is like always what you want to honor, or is it sometimes not what you ultimately want to do?
Can you give me an example?
Like maybe someone's like, okay, you want to do like this is a very like simple example, but like so like someone's like, hey, let's go, I don't know what I'm trying to think of an event, let's do something, go to a show, and in your gut you've had at some point you feel like, I don't know if I really want to go, but it's like you go and then you have a great time, and so it's like, oh great, like I'm glad I went even though I was like a little hesitant. It's like if you always honor the gut, then it's like maybe it's fine to do that, but like also I don't know, I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah. The main thing that most of us in the modern West have to deal with first is just getting back in touch with gut feelings.
Yeah.
We all have so much trauma.
Yeah.
It covers all those feelings up. Or they're there, but we mistrust them. And so for many people, it'll be a matter of learning how to trust gut feelings again. Learning to make space or to allow space inside themselves to even consider listening. And as I've listened more and more, I've become more happy. But there are other situations where, like this could happen, like what you're talking about, or, it's these moments of seeming conflict. Like there's somebody you want to date, or some, like, you feel some sexy time feelings around them or something, but then something else says, So these are both bodily signals.
Right.
And wisdom comes from being able to take a step back and sort of hold these things and make an appropriate choice from there.
Right.
And I can't say what an appropriate choice would be.
Well, it's like, obviously in that kind of context, it's super about each other and like
yeah,
talking about it.
It's always
consensual,
unique,
of course. Yeah,
it's always a unique situation.
right.
And if you know that your habit is to ignore your gut feelings primarily,
Yeah,
it might be time to start listening to them more.
yeah,
And
yeah, right.
What the scenario you described, it sounds like there might have been two different feelings. Like the feeling of excitement and wanting some togetherness and fun, and then the gut feeling of who knows what, maybe tiredness or some kind of fear or anxiety, who knows, whatever it is.
Right.
And the thing there is not to get into a habit of ignoring this, the gut feeling, but rather maybe to listen. There's a message there.
Yeah, right.
So what is that about? What is that hesitance about? Maybe it's about one of these people in your group or something, and there's something you haven't said to that person.
Interesting.
Right? And if you were to say something, then that would repair the connection maybe, and then you might have more fun. So these gut feelings and heart feelings and other kinds of feelings, they're all messages.
Yeah, right.
The problem comes from ignoring them.
Yeah, wow, that's very interesting. Yeah.
It can be like having an inner council.
Yeah.
Like you're the king. It's up to you as self to decide.
Yeah.
But you listen to your council, right? Because the king doesn't know everything.
Right.
That's why you have a council.
Yeah.
Right? And if one council member is constantly getting ignored, what's going to happen for that council member?
Assassinate the king.
You get very unhappy.
Overthrow them.
Right? So like chronic tension, anxiety, depression, codependency, all kinds of neuroses are basically messages from inside that are getting ignored. And this is a result of trauma, generally.
You're the second person to mention codependency to me in the last few weeks, and I never heard it before. It's a sign. Yeah. That's interesting.
And with music, so I call this approach the yoga of art, or yoga of music. Yoga means union.
Right.
And so, generally, the more you listen to your inner audience member, all the signals, messages, the better things are going to go.
Right.
And so as much as you can, just listen, like, oh, what do I want to practice today? Or how do I want to practice this particular thing?
Right.
Or where do I want to go first? Or with what kind of quality? Or, when do I know that I'm done practicing? Or do I take this gig or not? Do I take this student or not?
Right.
Your nervous system, your gut feelings have been around for 3.5 billion years. Right? Since guts were first a thing.
Yeah, right.
Right? So there's wisdom there.
Yeah.
That your ego self doesn't necessarily have access to.
Yeah, that's real. I've heard that too, that the I think only 2% of serotonin is in your brain. Like a lot of it is in your gut.
Yeah, it is a brain in itself.
Yeah.
As is the heart.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
Let's do a walkabout.
Yeah, sure.
I've been sitting for a while. Alrighty. Good. Yeah. So my inner audience member was getting a little bit antsy there.
Yeah.
It's time to move a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. So here you are in the room.
Here I am.
How about that? And Notice your legs getting a little bit lighter there. What do you notice?
I noticed mostly, I don't know if I noticed anything when I was walking, or while I wasn't walking. Well, I don't know, I guess I need to not judge whatever I notice. But,
You're allowed to judge it.
But, I think before I walked, I noticed that, like, at some point my eyes kind of relaxed. And that was really nice, in kind of like unifying me or something. I felt more connected to myself. With just like, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to know what the inside of your brain feels like, it's this. We don't actually see the world as it is. Nobody has ever seen the world as it is.
Oh, interesting.
Sight is a sensation created in the lower back part of your brain. Your visual field is being created by your brain.
That's crazy.
The impulse to like use your eyes as daggers to see things is totally delusional. Because it doesn't matter if your eyes tense and move forward or if they relax or whatever like that. The visual field is not out there to be seen.
Jeez. That's kind of trippy.
Yeah, it's a creation of your brain. So just let your visual field be there.
Wow. I guess stuff is still there, but the way that it looks is in our heads, you mean?
We don't know what's there.
Yeah.
The sensation of touching is also something created by our brains.
Interesting.
When people have different experiences of their bodies, like phantom limb.
Right.
That's a really clear example of how the limb is a creation of the mind. It's not there anymore.
Right.
But it feels there.
Right.
Right. And Oliver Sacks has done all sorts of.
Yeah. Right. I've heard about that. Yeah, that's so crazy. That's kind of scary. Maybe just because it's so different to think about. But again, the unknown is safe. The last time. It can be safe.
It can be. Like, what if?
Yeah, what if, yeah.
Yeah, right. So this is a little threatening to the separate self.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot threatening.
Yeah.
So you just notice, like, you get freer. Maybe you get freer when you begin to relate to yourself this way. And that's the real North Star.
Interesting. See that? Yeah, that's it. It's almost like, I think it's easy to interpret that as like, in like a way that's like kind of like alarming or like kind of scary or like.
Yeah. But it flies in the face of everything you've known about yourself.
Yeah.
Like, wait, is there an outside world or not?
Yeah.
So this is what's called a non-dual perspective. There is no outside, there is no inside. There's just this appearance in consciousness. What can help navigate that uncertainty and that anxiety is studying non-dual meditation, texts, that kind of thing. Like Buddhism, Zen is very non-dual. Tibetan, Buddhist approach. There's non-duality at the core of most of the major religions.
Yeah, right.
before you smoke some DMT. You'll
Yeah.
get there.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's definitely part of me that's like afraid of like losing my mind. If I were
sure.
to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt that too.
Yeah.
And what would you be losing if you let yourself notice that the visual field is disappearing and the body is disappearing?
Mm-hmm.
What would you lose?
I think nothing in that context. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's just the way it is. So
It's just the way it is.
So it's not like, yeah. I guess it's more like not holding on to something rather than like getting rid of something.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. So the separate self it is this contraction. The muscular contraction, stories,
right?
Sort of a model, like I'm up here doing things in the world.
Right.
The boundary of the skin seems like a real boundary,
You're
not just another appearance.
But like it is on some level, right?
It's a permeable boundary. It's not a boundary of a self, though.
Yeah. Interesting. Selectively permeable membrane.
Yeah, and again, that phrase, I really love that. The body-mind is an open circuit completed by the world.
Yeah.
So it's you with the world, that's the self.
Yeah, right.
You and the world in relation.
And I guess I was thinking about the world. What is the world? Because, like, for me, I usually think of Earth. But, people in space, the world for them is space, I guess, and Earth and everything. So maybe not just the world, not just Earth, but
yes, the universe.
The universe, yeah.
The YOU universe.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so these are fun ideas.
Yeah.
Just notice that your body's here.
Yeah.
Right. Your visual field is there. It's fine. Any thoughts or feelings are disappearing. And that's just how they show up.
Right.
This is not about your arm.
This is not your arm.
This is not your arm.
What are you doing to me, Joseph? Okay.
This is not about your arm. Still, you got the whole of you. You don't have to do anything with your arm. You're just picking it up like a radio, like your arm's a radio antenna for the rest of you. What do you notice?
I think what I noticed was like, I noticed myself smiling. I'm not sure why. That's one thing, mainly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I don't feel like I typically notice that many things. I don't think I notice like a lot of different things when I'm walking around, but sometimes I do. But
Well, sure. So with the hands-on contact that we just did, was there any difference for you?
I felt like you were kind of turning me more, but I imagine you might not really have been turning me that much more, but maybe you were. But I felt like I was looser in terms of like more free to be moved, kind of.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
You're allowing some movement,
Yeah.
and there's some freedom in there.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to do some playing?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
What do you want to play?
Let me think. I want to play? That's what I want to play right now.
Yeah, and there are two kinds of questions. I mean, two answers to that question. I think, what would just simply feel good to play?
Yeah.
Or where's your curiosity? What's feeling challenging these days?
Yeah, I see. Yeah. One of the things that my curiosity is extremely interested in right now is I've been a couple times this week I was just playing along to stuff and trying to like make up lyrics on the spot to actually more like having the violin follow what I'm singing or like kind of like so the first step was, okay, I'm playing along to the song. What happens if I only play what I'm singing? You know, what happens if I make sure that what I'm playing is also what I'm singing? Like, in a way, to just like try to only play what I'm hearing, you know? And that was cool, and that's cool. But and I was like, okay, also, what if on top of that, I'm actually singing words? Like, and kind of thinking of my playing as being like a melody, like a melody that somebody would sing that's not there, but I'm adding on top of it. And it was really fun to like spontaneously just like see whatever my subconscious throws out in terms of like language. I was playing along with one song called Lilac, and so it was mostly lyrics about like lilac and whatever. But that was like, I felt way more like excited about the melodies I was playing that were like associated with, that were like basically lyrics and melodies that I'm singing and playing at the same time, versus just singing like pitch but not actual words. That was really interesting.
Cool, that sounds like fun.
Yeah. So I'm curious about that and just like, I don't know about, yeah.
Is there something I could help you with in that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Maybe. Let me think for a second. That I feel like I'm just curious about it. That's what I'm curious about. I'm trying. There's something I was gonna, when I was playing along yesterday or 2 days ago, to I guess within that kind of, I was playing along to some Brazilian music, and I felt like I was singing and playing, trying to play what I was singing, just to try to connect the voice and the violin. But there was like, something was difficult about it. I'm trying to think of what. Yeah, I think I was like, sorry, I'm not even sure if I really.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Well, you just want to play something and see
Yeah.
what happens?
Yeah, I'll just play something see what happens. See if I play a song I can think of. Play the first thing that popped in my head. Interesting.
That's a theme from a movie, right?
Potentially, it's the Rainbow Connection.
Oh, the rainbow. You're right. Yeah. Muppets. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you notice about yourself as you play?
Yeah, I noticed that I was like trying to honor some wishes that came up, but that if they didn't go as I wanted it to, I would like be a bit upset. And I would think, oh, maybe I just need to practice this wish or something.
Yeah.
But
Right. So things, that's why it's called a wish. We don't always get it.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, that's a great way to organize your practice. So here's this organic impulse.
Yeah, I can't do it, and let me try to.
Right.
Yeah.
And wouldn't that be some great internal motivation? So,
yeah.
It'd be fun to figure out this thing.
Yeah. I've done that in the past a little bit. Or like, I have done that before, and it is great. Just playing until I can't play something I want to, and then trying to work on that. Yeah.
Yeah, so what was it like to let yourself play freely here?
Yeah, it was good. I think I felt pretty connected to what I was playing. Yeah. I'm curious about I'm curious about what it feels like to just continually work on this and feel like I have deeper and deeper connection to the instrument or something in this way.
Do you mean playing from the heart?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Let's see, take a few more minutes and see what happens. So, yeah. Well, why don't you just do it again and same thing. Just bring that curiosity. What would feel good for my inner audience member?
Yeah, let's try it again. yeah, the things that I noticed was like, I was like, okay, what I mostly noticed was the wishes that I'd want to work on. I think I was like, oh, this is a wish that I'm honoring right now, and I'm not quite pulling it off. So like, I have like my work cut out for me, kind of, in terms of making that try to happen.
Right. Good. So there are two pieces to that. One is making note of what you want to practice later.
Yeah.
And the second is, like, how do you recover well? How do you recover well when things don't happen the way you think?
Right.
So did you notice anything about that?
I think just like smiling and just like moving on and being like, oh, like maybe being like, oh, good for you for honoring your wish, and like since you did that, like that's a win, you know. But
what about happy accidents?
Oh yeah, just roll it, kind of like honoring the mistake, kind of, or whatever.
Yeah. One of the great skills of improvisers, I'm sure you know, is to roll with it.
Yeah.
Don't go the way you thought.
Right.
And to like, that's a whole skill in itself.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, because it's pretty easy to get derailed.
Yeah.
At that point.
Right.
So, what happens for you when you make a mistake? Let's redefine a mistake. So you play something you didn't realize you were going to play.
I mean, that to me, that doesn't even seem like necessarily a mistake. But maybe that's the point. But like, I think I would define a mistake. Maybe I'm being led down this path perfectly. I would define a mistake more as like playing something that I didn't realize I was going to play, and that I, hearing it, wish I didn't play.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So, and what happens in your body when you encounter that second part of that? Where you wish you hadn't played it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you know.
Get a little tight.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like, or like, I'm like, you know, just like, damn, but.
Right. And, you know, does getting tighter help you recover?
No, yeah, probably not.
Probably not. So, what could you do in that moment of,
That's interesting. I guess I could try not to have the response be tension. I don't know.
How would you do that? Or how would you undo that?
Yeah. I don't know, I guess. Not even sure.
Remember, we were talking about the pause, right? Stimulus, response.
Oh, the pause. Wow, yeah.
It's good to review that. So
yeah, I forgot about the pause.
Tension happens with stimulus and response. The thing happens, whatever it is, and your habitual or learned response is to contract. That's a whole behavior loop. What you want is the same thing happens. Mistakes are inevitable. Not liking things is inevitable. But you want to break in between the thing and the reaction.
Reaction to it. Wow.
Right? So mistake, pause.
Release. Or
even just the pause by itself. You don't have to try to release. Just mistake, pause. That opens up new possibilities for you. So why don't you try that?
Yeah, that's very intriguing. Yeah. very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I feel like, I feel like, with this, what I'm thinking about is like, okay, what I'm doing is like, I'm trying to really play things that I'm hearing specifically that I think maybe I won't be able to play, and like just seeing where I, where I can't do it, kind of, and which is cool because I feel like very connected to like what I want to hear, and also like, but also it's a slightly different space of kind of letting something flow that I'm in right now. Like I wouldn't play what I just played necessarily in like a performance. It's not necessarily playing to really please my inner audience member. Well, it pleases another side of it, I guess. But like, it's more like practicing. It's more like in the workshop kind of.
Oh yeah, so I could kind of hear that happening.
Yeah.
That's
which
useful.
Is great.
It's useful too.
Yeah.
So why don't you try one more time and just play the melody like you were before to please your inner audience member. And whenever something doesn't go like you'd like, then do the pause.
Okay.
Just a little pause after it.
Sure. Yeah, that was a really neat exercise. I felt myself really wanting to try to correct my mistakes, but it was interesting to not do that.
Yeah. What happens in your body when you try to correct mistakes in that way?
Yeah, I guess I can imagine. I can imagine it could be just kind of like a tension fest.
This is what happens.
Yeah.
More control.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, what do you make of that?
You did great.
Thanks.
That's it.
So like, what happens if you wanted to play something that's like on the edge of your abilities and you have to stop all the time? Is it just like taking shorter chunks of it to?
Yeah, it depends on what situation you're in.
Yeah.
Again, appropriate means if you're in the middle of a performance, right? And this piece is still super challenging for you. It's going to be more tension inducing. It just is. You're going to have more mistakes, right? And at that point, it's so much more important to release when you make a mistake, so you don't get into a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Right. So your primary job in a situation like that would be to play from the heart and to pause every time you make a mistake.
Yeah, I definitely get that, especially in a performance setting. Yeah. I'm thinking more like when you're practicing.
Yeah, when you're practicing, it could be either mode here.
Yeah.
You know, when you're playing more from the heart, there can be more emotional investment, which can raise the stakes.
Yeah.
And also can shift your perspective on when things don't go as well.
Right.
Maybe it could be more fun.
Yeah, I see it more as like opportunity, or I see like those spaces as like little sandboxes that I can come back to, maybe.
Totally.
Play in.
And tightening in on mistakes, trying to fix a mistake. What is that? Well, what are you actually doing? There's this flow of events, something happens you don't like, and then this other thing you do to get tight and play something after the event. That's not the same thing as having a nice flow all the way through.
Yeah, right.
What you want to practice is having a nice flow all the way through. Getting into your... it doesn't facilitate that.
Right. Yeah, right, because I guess you want to practice how you play. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm trying to think about how do I get more connected to the ideas I have in my head by doing that. You know? Yeah.
That's the subject for our next lesson.
Yeah, sounds good.
But you experiment.
Okay? Yeah, I'll mess around. Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah, thanks, Joseph.